What is up, everybody? It is missvadams here, bringing you a very special exclusive of Nightingale ahead of its early access launch on the 20th of February. I have spent the past 7 months playing Nightingale behind the scenes, and I am very excited to finally be able to share with you some of the things that I have learnt along the way. So, if you haven't heard of Nightingale before, it's an open-world fantasy survival game set in a steampunk Victorian era, where as either a solo player or in a group, you'll be travelling between procedurally generated realms of the Fey world as you try to get back to the human world and the city of Nightingale. And one of the first big decisions you are presented with is which biome to choose to build your base. This will be your home realm, or Abeyance realm as it is known in the world of Nightingale. So in this video, I want to give you an introduction to each biome so that you can be better informed on which biome will be best suited for your starter base. The gameplay footage you are seeing right now is from a build prior to the game's release and is therefore not a full representation of what the game will be like at launch, but it does give a good insight into the world of Nightingale and its many interesting systems, mechanics and picturesque scenes. In early access, Nightingale has 3 biomes to choose from: the forest, desert and swamp, with each biome having its own positives and negatives to consider, each with its own unique creatures and environmental challenges, along with different types of resources that you can gather. You will get a good impression of each of these biomes through the tutorial, which you are required to complete before entering the game proper. After meeting Puck, who will be your narrator and guide, you will approach your first portal and realm card machine that prompts you to combine a biome card, the forest card in this case, and a major card, which will dictate the difficulty of the realm you are entering. This is the tutorial, so the realms being made are easy, although you can set the difficulty separate to this in the drop-down menu on the bottom left if you are looking for more of a challenge. The first biome you will enter will be the forest, which is arguably the easiest biome to navigate. The forest landscape is characterised by a mixture of open meadows, lush forests and rocky hills, the latter of which can sometimes be difficult to traverse without the proper gear. But as a hint, you can hit F5 on your keyboard and that will take you into third-person mode, which I find makes it much easier to climb. Many of the creatures you will come across will be aggressive, but easy to fight, like the Waywolves and the Ferroswine. There are also passive creatures such as the Everheart deer, and all of these can be farmed for meat, hide, bones, and tier 1 essence. When farming for wood in Nightingale, it is important to know that the trees do not respawn unless you use a spell that you learn later in game, or unless a creature known as the Carnoot walks by, who will cause nearby trees to magically respawn. Therefore, the amount of trees that spawn in the forests are a big positive to living in this biome, as you will need a lot of wood to craft up all the equipment that you will need. Other resources that you can commonly find in the Abeyance forest biome include quartz, which can be refined into glass, and tin, which can be refined into ingots. Both of these secondary materials are used in crafting and carry their own unique properties and bonuses when combined together. Quartz and tin themselves don't offer amazing properties in comparison with other gems and metals that are commonly found in the Abeyance desert and swamp biomes, so that is something to bear in mind when thinking about living in the forest. Nightingale has a pretty robust and complex crafting system, with your character progression being heavily reliant on the score of your weapons and gear, so your proximity to better quality resources is definitely something to consider when choosing your base location. When it starts to rain in the forest, you will need to find shelter, as rain is always followed by a hailstorm, which will cause damage to your character and death if you can't find cover in time. These storms are usually easy to avoid, since all you need to do is be under the roof of your base, shelter, or a nearby point of interest. And once you unlock the simple umbrella, you will be immune from the effects of the hailstorm wherever you are. I personally find these storms not to be so bothersome because they are only brief, and the rest of the time there are no other environmental or weather hazards in the forest biome. Next up is the desert biome, which you can immediately see has a very different feel and colour palette. You could also see straight away that by stepping into the sunlight, you are hit with the hot debuff, which restricts your maximum stamina once the bar is maxed out. In order to get rid of this debuff, you will need to go into a shaded area, which are quite easy to find in the tutorial biome, but in the Abeyance desert biome, there are typically large open areas, making it difficult to find shade. You can use an umbrella to protect yourself from the heat, but if you need to equip a two-handed tool or weapon, you won't be able to use your offhand. I personally find this weather mechanic to be more annoying than the hailstorms in the forest, as I'm not a massive fan of having to constantly manage my stamina. But with that said, there are many reasons why you might want to choose to live in the desert. The large open areas in the desert realm are great for planning and building large bases. Plus, a desert structure set that you can eventually buy from a trader later in game looks great against the arid backdrop of the desert. The creatures in the tutorial desert realm are all passive, but if you do choose a desert abeyance realm for your home, you will have to regularly deal with swarms of aggressive monarch locusts. But beside these, most of the other creatures I have encountered are passive, making this biome feel less hostile than the forest in a way. The Abeyance Desert is pretty sparse when it comes to trees and plants, but you can easily find nickel and copper nodes, which are better quality metals that provide stronger attributes when used in crafting compared with the tin found in the Abeyance Forest biome. The swamp is probably the trickiest of the three biomes to base up in, mainly because of its terrain being dominated by swamp water, which slows you down as you traverse through it, as well as giving the disease buff which will tick away at your health pretty rapidly if left unchecked. There are some open flat areas, but the landscape is full of rocks and hills, meaning that you will have to get creative if you wish to build a large base here. Lyporodon and the Toweret's hippo are two of the most common aggressive creatures that you will come across. They make for a pretty interesting fight as a beginner, especially the Lyporodon that can pounce at you from a distance, but they end up being easy enough to deal with in the end. You'll also come across groups of Haddock's ox, which are passive until provoked, and can be a little more challenging as a beginner to bring down since they are usually found in larger groups. There is an abundance of trees and bushes in the Abeyance Swamp biome for wood and fibre farming, and a variety of stone called schist and gneiss can also be commonly found, which both have enhanced properties compared with regular sandstone. Zinc, copper and iron are the commonly found metals here that all have enhanced properties compared with the tin found in the forest biome. These more valuable metals can be found in the other areas, but I definitely came across them more frequently in the swamp, making this biome the best place to set up your base if you are looking for close proximity to a variety of superior resources. Once you get to the end of the swamp biome in the tutorial, it is finally time to make your decision on where you want your beginner home realm to be. I say beginner because you can move your base at any time you like. If you're not happy with your decision, you can pack up and remove your estate cairn, which is the structure that you can place that will determine where your home realm is, where you could fast travel home to and where you will respawn if you die or upon logging into the game. Each realm has its own Fey portal, and you can unlock player-made portals fairly early game, giving you unlimited access to the many procedurally generated realms that Nightingale has to offer. You can even set up multiple portals at your base, making it easy to travel between all the different biomes to gather up any resources which you can't find in your home biome. Despite each realm being procedurally generated, the three Abeyance biomes have the same structure. For example, they all contain caves, which have a higher chance of spawning in rarer metals. They all have creatures, known as the Bound, that will spawn around points of interest, at sites of power, and at night time. And all three Abeyance realms also have the same NPC and sites of power that unlock the major realm cards, and all creatures except for those found at the sites of power will spawn in at a level 10. So wherever you do choose, you will have easy access to many fundamental resources and progression points at your doorstep. For me, aesthetics play a big part in where I like to base, so I decided to pick the forest biome, and ultimately where you choose to base will be subjective and personal to you. Hopefully this video has been helpful in giving you an insight into the wonderful realms that Nightingale has to offer. If you did enjoy the content, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me out as I plan to release more Nightingale videos on this channel that will be centered around guides and tips and tricks. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching.